Hey guys, Sharpend here. In this video I'm going to show you how to post-process acoustic drums to create a very big, dry acoustic drum group sound. The drums that we're going to be creating originally sounded like this. And we're going to learn how to turn these drums into something that sounds like this. Okay, so the sound that we're after is this dry, processed-driven acoustic kit that sounds something like this. And after the party is always when I leave. And now let me play you the exact same drum loop without any post-processing. So as you can hear, we have a long way to go. The first thing I like to do is to pick drum samples that sound not too processed and samples that sound semi-acoustic or acoustic completely in nature. So let me play you the kick. As you can hear, it got that acoustic high end, like the snare rattle sound. Here's the snare, which kind of sounds like a lame dubstep snare from like 2012, but it also sounds acoustic enough. And we have the toms, which are acoustic, and there's also a hi-hat sample and like a snare rim shot sound. And basically my goal with these was to find samples that aren't distorted and aren't clipping already. This is a tip that I got from Zansky. He's a great producer and musician. That way you can post-process these samples the way you want and clip them as you want with the rest of your drum kit. So I've made a very basic loop, just like hi-hat, kick, snare, and like some toms. And I also have a crash cymbal happening. It's very quiet. The entire kit is very quiet, as you can tell, because we're going to drive it quite a bit. So let's take a look at the post-processing. So this is for the main kit. We have here a compressor. Let's start one by one. As you can see, it slightly compresses the loud moments and it brings up a lot of gain. So the kick gets slightly compressed and becomes a bit bigger and a bit more sustained. And then we have the rev plate. So I use it just as a drive. You can use any distortion plugin or any plugin with a drive function that you like. It adds a lot of color to the sound. You can already hear how the kick now sounds a bit more electronic, a bit more dry and processed. And I really like that sound, so that's why I used it. I've also used a preamp simulation. This is just to color the sound. You can hear that it sort of removes a bit of the highs. It just tames them a bit and helps it sell as an acoustic kit and other as an electronic drum kit. And then there's another compressor which is just there to compress the very high peaks. And as we can see, most of the time it isn't even working. It's just there for especially loud moments that happen like during fills or something like that, when I go crazy with the velocity and put it all the way up. Okay, so now let's take a look at the acoustic cymbal processing. So we have pretty much the exact same setting, a lot of drive, some compression, and a bit of a room reverb, just to blend it and put it a bit in the back. So let's hear it without it and with it. So as you can hear, the gain and the processing and the compression and the distortion bring out quite a lot of the cymbal into the mix. And the room is there to just put it a bit more in the back and make it sound not as sharp, and again, more acoustic and organically in the song and not just like a very bright and sharp sample. And then we get to the main part, which is a lot of gain and a lot of distortion. So I have here the big seal. This is like a compressor, and it has some EQ as well. As you can see, I'm using it just to compress the very high moments of the kick drum. As you can see here, the gain reduction. And its attack is pretty fast and the release is pretty slow, so you get a slightly more sustained kick drum. And there's quite a lot of gain here as well. I'm also using the EQ. I'm removing a bit of the highs so that they don't sound too harsh, and increasing the lows by a bit. And since the kick drum is already so loud, I'm pretty sure this also helps drive it a bit and make it slightly more distorted. So let's hear it without it and with it. So as you can see, the kick is getting to the red zone and getting pretty distorted just by the gain. And then I'm using Isotope Trash, which is a distortion plugin. I've selected the drive harmonic control setting. And as you can see, the distortion is at 0.4, so just a touch of distortion. And this just like clips it and brings it home, in my opinion. And that way you get this very dry and like driven acoustic sound without settling on like the punch of more electronic type of drums. You just need to start with like drums that are a bit less hard hitting and post-process it to get there. And then there are a few additions that I've added. There's this very short tambourine sample. It's just like the rattles of the tambourine playing. And I picked a very short moment that I liked, and with an automation clip just created a very fast attack. And this is there to just bring some highs to the snare. So it just brings a very nice sizzle to the snare. It's not that noticeable, but you can tell the difference if it's not there. And in addition to that, there's also a ride loop right here. Let me disable any effects. So as you can hear, it's playing a constant rhythm. And as for the effects, I'm using an EQ to remove the lows, because when you compress cymbals too hard, you get a lot of the low end for them. And we don't want that sound. It's sort of like a gong sound, and we don't want that in our drums. And there's some compression, but I don't think it's ever going to get there. And then it is being sent to the acoustic cymbal drum group, which is again just the compression and the distortion and some reverb to bring it a bit back in the mix and make it sound a bit more organic. And all of this is being sent into the group that we saw just now. So the point of sending both the electronic drums, the program drums, and the acoustic cymbals and the rides into the same group to get compressed and distorted is because when we have very loud moments like a kick drum or a snare drum, it compresses the entire signal so that the cymbals, the rides, all of these get crushed below, and you get this very nice sound. Let me demonstrate by just not sending the cymbals and the rides to the same group. You can really tell we lost a lot of that momentum when we removed the cymbals and the rides from the group that compresses and distorts everything together. Just the combination of volume from the kick and the high sounds from the cymbal and the rides create a very intense sound that I really like, and that's why it's there. And in a full context, it sounds like this. And after the party is over. So we can also take a quick look at how it affects the toms as well. So let's hear it. Let's remove the distortion and the compression. So you can still kind of hear that the toms and the snares are acoustic, but once you add all of that compression and all of that distortion, which is very subtle by the way, but it does a lot, you get like a sound that it's a dry, it's an acoustic tom sound and a snare, but you can really hear the drive shine through and make them sound like a very dry electronic sample instead, which is really great in my opinion, and it really makes the entire kit shine a lot more. And of course, once you master the song, it can get even louder, and you can even clip it a bit more if you want. I can't really show it because of my CPU, it will go crazy, but here's the finished mastered version, and you can really hear how hard hitting it really is. Sober, and after the parting, I was left here alone. So yeah, that's pretty much it. I'll see you in the next video. For more content, make sure to follow me on Twitter and Instagram as well, and check out my playlists on the channel for other tutorials, track breakdowns, and my music as well.